Hello and welcome to Starside Chat. We're back. It's been a little while, but Aaron, of course, is joining me, and we're going to talk about games and stuff.
Yes, I have lots to talk about. It's been a little bit of time. We've reconvened because there's been a lot of news happening. Well, I feel like we should just jump into it.
I think we should, yeah. Let's start off with the Half-Life stuff, just to get that out of the way. You know a lot more about this stuff than I do, so why don't you tell me about it?
Famously, you've never played Half-Life 2, is that correct?
I played the first Half-Life, but I did not finish it.
So you've played half a Half-Life?
Yes.
Did you get to that part where there was like a bunch of tentacles in the middle of a room and you had to make your way around that room and they were always tapping?
Are the ones that like hang down and they grab you and pull you up? No,
those are
then probably not.
It's iconic. That's an iconic set piece in the first game. Anyway, so everybody knows the Ballad of Half-Life, Half-Life 1 and then 2, and then episode 2 and 3 of Half-Life 2, and the Lost Coast. That doesn't really count. But anyway, out of nowhere, Valve was like, guess what? We're making Half-Life Alyx. It's coming out next year, and they showed a little trailer for it. I thought they were going to have something at the Game Awards, but they did not. But yeah, it's made for VR. It's
how do you feel about that?
I'm into it. Like, something needs to be. I forget where I was watching, but somebody was like, "Yeah, can you like make this? Can you port this to flat screens?" And the guy's like, "No, we cannot do that. We would need to dedicate like 5 different buttons to opening a door if we were to do that."
Oh, geez.
Because you like it, you do so many. You're leaning,
Yeah.
like there's mechanics where you can grip it and then turn it and slowly open it.
Yeah, I guess if you build something specifically for like motion controls, there's not really a good way to translate that to a controller.
And so much of it also is like positional audio, where that doesn't necessarily translate unless you have like surround sound. But if you're just playing on a TV, it's like you're really there. And if the game developer wants you to look in a certain place, like you're in VR, the only way they can do that is to get your attention with like spatial audio and like visual cues. They're not going to take control of the camera and whip it around. Number one, because it's a Half-Life game, but also because that would break immersion.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What I'm very excited about is this is basically the debut, I'm not counting whatever, Dota 2 or whatever, of the Source 2 engine, which has been in development for a very, very long time. And it'll be like the first fully featured game to feature the Source 2 engine, which I think is super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, is this going to make you buy a VR headset?
I don't know. I mean, if the thing about that is the promise of the VR that I want is a metaverse. I want that like Ready Player One type persistent world that I can go visit. There's things to do. I can like rent space in it and have my own area. Single player experiences are fun and cool, but I'm still waiting for, basically the Matrix to happen, which who's to say how far out that is? I know that Facebook is working on something. This looks super cool, and I have been thinking about building a new PC, but I don't know. You can play it on Quest with a link, so it's like not as cost prohibitive. If you already have a nice PC, you can just grab a Quest, which is kind of cheap.
Yeah, that was my thinking. I was like, I mean, this is prohibitive in that you would have to buy a pretty expensive piece of hardware in order to actually play it.
And here's the other thing. You might be thinking to yourself, whatever, I'll just experience this on Twitch. Well, not so fast, because like how do you do this in Twitch? I follow this guy Vinesauce on Twitch, and he's like, I don't know if I can do this, because like not only do they, to be like a really good Twitch experience, you also need to be like looking at chat, which like you can't do in virtual reality. And if you could, there's maybe a plugin you can get, but like if he's looking at chat, you're looking through his eyes, looking at chat kind of a thing. So he can't really interact with the audience while he's playing the game, which I guess is fine, but I don't know. It's weird to stream VR games in general, I think.
Yeah, you can do a Let's Play. I've seen like some gameplay videos of like VR stuff on YouTube, and that way you don't have to like worry about the chat, and you can just sort of comment as you go. But that's a good point, that like streaming with VR, until they make some sort of like heads up display that is like built in with Twitch, it's going to be rough trying to make that happen.
I don't know, man. I mean, I want to experience it because I love the story of Half-Life, and I I mean, just the mechanics of this look super cool. Like, I feel like with Source 2, they've fixed a bunch of things from Source 1. Like, I don't know how much Gary's mod you played or things like that, but in Source, if like two physics objects touched, it seemed like if they just like barely like glanced by each other, both of them would start freaking out and fly across the map. And in this, it seems like, I mean, based on, I guess, just the trailer that I've seen, and who's to say how real that is, but there's like parts in the trailer where the character is pushing aside a bunch of things on a table, which is unheard of in Source 1. Like, all that stuff would just fling across, and just like all of the vectors would go crazy. Whereas this, like, I feel like they've nailed something you don't see a lot in games, which is like more realistic physics that are interacting with the character. Like, I feel like there's a bunch of games where you're just like walking into boxes and boxes are just flying and they feel weightless. But I think they've figured out a way to like give things realistic weight with Source 2, which I feel like no one's talking about that. And I want to explore that.
That would be important to the metaverse that you want. Yeah.
Very true, Zach.
Well, anyway, I think maybe the Twitch live stream thing in VR might be solved if they work out a way to get it to work with Stadia.
That's the dream. Like, Stadia having all of the rendering being on like Google servers and being however like super powerful and stuff and being able to be streamed is like a path I see towards the metaverse. But spoiler alert, Stadia's bad.
Yeah, that was my segue. But yeah, it has come out, and the big issue is that a lot of the features that they talked about and teased in their announcements are not actually available. Like, they don't exist yet.
The player counts are also, I heard, are not great. I think it was one of the previous one of the former Game Informer people was talking about how they were trying to play Destiny on Stadia, and they like couldn't get a queue together for just like a random PvP match.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, right now it's only available for people who bought the Founders Edition. And I would have to imagine that the number of people that bought the Founders Edition and want to play Destiny is relatively small at the moment.
It's a thin Venn diagram, I have to say, yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, myself included, are kind of waiting until the free version comes out where you don't have to actually sub, and then you can just like play whatever game you've bought.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. I want to see like what kind of free stuff comes out on the free version. I would get one of these controllers just to like, although I guess you also have to get a Chromecast Ultra, but
well, I mean, the idea is that you can play on any hardware. So, like, you wouldn't have to buy that stuff unless you wanted to play on your TV. Like, you could pull up your laptop, and it could be like a garbage laptop, but it should be able to play the latest whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested as far as, like I'm definitely going to get Cyberpunk, but I might get it on PS4, and it's going to probably chug a little bit. And if I got it on PC, it would probably still chug a little bit because my PC is so old. But if I could play it on Stadia anywhere, it would be crisp and no juddering, just like some, artifacting of like rendering or whatever. That's, I guess, enticing. I don't know. Have they announced if Cyberpunk's coming to Stadia?
Let me look it up for a second because I thought maybe it was.
Like the thing about Stadia is graphics are going to be like maxed out, which is great. But you just have to deal with some, I forget what the word, it's not artifacting. It's like not interlacing, but you just get those like rendering defects when it's trying to pixelate. Bitrate, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the bitrate will go out on you.
But yeah, it is actually coming to Stadia. It's not clear to me whether it's going to be like day and date or if it's like sometime later, but either way, I think there's been like conflicting reports too. Like people have been posting like GIFs on Twitter of pressing a button and then like you can see seconds later the person jumps or moves or whatever. But then you see a lot of other people talking about it. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm not having any of these issues at all.
I'm sure it's heavily dependent on your area.
Yeah, it depends on your area, depends on your internet. But they're treating this like more of a beta than they should because it's not actually a beta.
Yeah, so, people are paying like $135 or something for the Founders.
Yeah, like they're like, you don't have to buy a console, but you do have to spend like over $100 on hardware anyway. So there's been a lot of mixed messaging, and Google, as they do, tends to sort of oversell and underdeliver a little bit, at least initially, until they start to eventually put features that they said were going to be there into it. Like, I am getting more and more frustrated with Google just because of the way they're treating like Google Play Music and YouTube Music and that trade or that handoff, and like the situation with Hangouts. There's a lot of issues they have, but I still think the tech for Stadia is very cool, and I think over time, eventually, if they stick with it, Stadia could be a really cool thing, because I still like the idea of just like going onto Google Play on your phone and like buying a movie and you can just watch it anywhere, and bringing that to games I think is really cool.
Yeah, like Google is the only place I rent movies from, pretty much. Like,
yeah,
just
same.
because of how easy it is and like portable it is. Like, even if I go to an Airbnb, I can just bring a Chromecast with me and connect to the Wi-Fi and I'm good. Like, you don't have to have a Roku or anything. Like, the fact that it's so portable, if I could bring a Chromecast and play a game, like that's great. That's the dream, you know?
Yeah, that would be an ideal situation. So anyway, just a note that I wanted to bring up, just because apparently BioWare still has plans to completely overhaul Anthem.
This seems insane to me.
A long time ago. This came out back in like early November, but Kotaku was reporting that they were going to do a complete overhaul for Anthem, which, I mean, they're kind of in a situation at this point where it's like, well, what do you do with it? But do you
think this is purchasable, or is this just going to be like, hey, get Anthem?
I think they said it was supposed to be an update for like anybody that already owns it, but they're calling it like Anthem 2.0 or Anthem Next or like whatever that, that No Man's Sky. I think then they say it was like Next or whatever. It's like that idea basically. But
are you interested in this? Do you still have Anthem installed on your computer?
I might. I haven't checked in a long time. I have no interest in jumping back into Anthem currently, but if they do,
what could they add that would entice you?
They need to overhaul it. They need to complete, like I said, the base ideas there were fairly good. I liked the flight mechanics. I liked the shooting. It was a good looking game. I had fun like when you were just doing combat, but like it was so shallow that, like I said, when we did our initial like impressions of the game, it just needed more of literally everything. And between that and trying to fix bugs, there was just no way to do it.
Did that come out this year?
It did, yeah.
Man, that feels like forever ago.
I know, it feels so long ago.
Because we're at the end of the year, and that means the Game Awards have happened.
They did. So,
did you watch this live? Oh yeah, you did, because we were texting during it.
Yes.
Let's talk about the big thing first, because Keeley, he's always got something up his sleeve. Last year he had the 3 representatives of the 3 consoles come out, and that was cool. And this year he was like very sly and like smiling to himself, and he was like, well, leaks always happen, but then stuff like this happens. And they played it, and surprise, he revealed the next generation of the Xbox.
Yeah. What was it? Xbox Series X?
Now, I've heard that it's actually just called Xbox, and Series S is just a subheading of that variant. So I think their naming convention is now just trying to get people to call it Xbox, but I'm also not sure about that. But it looks like a server. Do you think it's called Series S because it looks like a server?
So it's Series X, and I imagine there probably will be.
Series S.
I thought it was X.
Man, Xbox does not know how to name things.
Yeah, I know. Xbox
we should
One
know.
X, Xbox One S.
It should be burned into our brains, but like it's so confusing, and they love to use the word S or the letter S and the letter X, and it's just like.
Well, I think that's because that's what phones do. They're trying to go to a more phone-like, especially if you look at the iPhone. Like right now, the iPhone 10X Max, like, I don't know. They got so many different weird names. It's like their naming convention is awful, and Microsoft seems to be following them.
Is that speculation that you think it's going to be a shorter cycle? Like we're going to have not yearly updates, but like bi-yearly updates like that we had with like the PS4 Pro and stuff?
I mean, that's interesting to think about, especially since it is literally, like you said, it just looks like a server. It's just like a box So if they could just like not worry about design and just like shove a new one out every year with whatever the latest upgrades are.
I love the design of it, I have to say.
I mean, it's minimalistic, and it actually probably would look fairly decent on like an entertainment center.
I think it looks really cool. I love that it's not just a sideways box anymore. Like, they're really mixing it up. Like,
it actually kind of looks like a speaker. If you're not looking at like the green glowing top part and you're just looking at the side of it.
It is very, I will say, a PlayStation 4 looks nice, but like, I legitimately have like had trouble figuring out which is the like how to eject a disc and also like where a disc goes initially.
Yeah, those buttons I cannot find. Well, that's maybe one of the reasons why I switched over to mostly digital stuff, but also just the convenience factor. But
this is very clear, like you know where it goes, and I want to know. I mean, they didn't go in depth. This was not like a 10-minute thing where like here are all the features or whatever. I think they learned their lesson last time when they did that, and everyone was like, "This sucks." So I imagine later in the year, I mean, in the new year, they're going to say like, you know, this is what it's capable of, and this is also something, and this is why it looks like this. But
I mean, they kind of said what it was capable of at E3.
Yeah, I just want like we didn't even see any UI or anything, which I know is like too. We didn't see a controller, did we?
Yeah,
we did.
Well, I mean, they have a controller next to the.
Oh yeah, you're right.
The thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. But anyway, what did you think? Was this a good reveal? Did this shock you?
It surprised me that they unveiled it at the Game Awards and they didn't wait for E3, but and
I'm sure
also was this just like strategic to get out in front of PlayStation?
I bet Keighley was campaigning so hard to get PS5 to also be revealed. Because wouldn't that be a boon if both of the new consoles were revealed at his show?
Yeah.
And they kind of, I mean, they had the first footage of a PS5 game later on in the show, which was cool. And he was like really pushing like, hey, so like this is going to be available in the holidays and it's a PS5 game? That's pretty crazy, right? And the guy was like, yeah, it's going to be available.
Yeah, it'll come out at some point. But yeah, I mean, I think as we're seeing more people move away from E3, do you think the Game Awards is just going to like become the new E3?
I don't know. The ideal is that both of them continue to expand, and it's like an SGDQ and an AGDQ thing where we have 2 times a year where we get to watch stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And I like that it's basically, you know, they are kind of like one's in June and one is in December, so you know, it's like kind of bookending. They're almost 12 months apart or 6 months apart, so it's like, you know, half the year.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense. E3 is more about reveals, and the Game Awards, obviously, they're giving out awards, and half the show, I guess, is reveals, but...
What do you think of the end of the Game Awards? I mean, we can talk about all the games first, but just like the things that weren't games, this is true, I was sitting there watching it with my girlfriend, and I was like, man, what would get me excited about... like, what could they do? Because he was teasing, like, oh, there's going to be super special guests coming at the end of it. He kept saying that, and I was like, I can't think of a special... I mean, it's not going to be Keanu, because that would just be trite at this point. And then I was like, man, you know what would be great? Because the only thing I'm looking forward to as far as movies is the next Fast and Furious movie. And I remember seeing Vin Diesel on Instagram being like, hey, we're going to talk about Fast 9 coming up. And that was like a month ago. And I talked to my girlfriend. I was like, it would be crazy if they showed the Fast 9 trailer. That would be the best thing ever. And then Vin Diesel came out, and I was like, this is great. This is all I ever wanted. And then they just showed a weird, you called it like an Xbox 360 game.
The ugliest game I've seen in a long time.
And I was like, this is kind of okay. I mean, I like Vin Diesel, but this is not exactly what I wanted. But it was just crazy that I wanted Fast 5 thing or Fast 9 thing, and then he showed up. But I don't know. What did you think about that?
I mean, like I said, the graphics look straight out of the 360 era. I was like, what is this? Why does it look so bad?
It's unclear to me if it's just a driving game or if there's stuff that's on foot.
Yeah, was it like a licensed movie game? Those haven't happened in years.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what if it's like a Drake's Uncharted or an Uncharted type game where it's just like set piece after set piece? That wouldn't be terrible, but it does seem like it has a bunch of nonsense vehicle combat, which I am not into.
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of it. I'm not a huge Fast and Furious guy, but like I saw that trailer and first I saw that they were coming out. I was like, oh, I bet Capo's excited. And then I saw the trailer and I was like, what?
Overwhelmed.
What even is this?
I will say though, the way I watch, I can't handle awards shows. It's the whole, what do I want to say? The format of it just like makes me uncomfortable. So whenever someone is accepting an award, I just mute it and I just watch the visuals. And
Really?
so I didn't actually hear Vin Diesel say any words because it was just muted. But it seemed like he was acting like crazy because he was like dancing around and talking to Michelle Rodriguez. And he at one point put his hands on his face and he was like acting all crazy. And then I unmuted it for the footage. So when the footage started, I was like, oh man, this is going to be Fast 9 because I was not listening to him. And then it was like an insane, just like 3D Vin Diesel. And I was like, oh my God, is Fast 9 in virtual reality? And then it was just a video game.
No, that was footage of Fast 9.
If they incorporate VR, there is such a good chance they're going to incorporate VR into Fast 9. I cannot wait to see that.
I think if I remember correctly, they like had this awkward moment at the beginning where they just were like almost with their back to the crowd were like, we're on stage at the Game Awards. And it was like, all right, but the audience is over here. They were like talking about how excited they were to be in Fast 9. It was just like, are you talking to us or just each other now? And then they turned around and they were like, we're totally gamers, guys.
He is a gamer. He loves Dungeons and Dragons. He taught Helen Mirren how to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, no, but they were talking about how, like, in between scenes or whatever, they would be in their trailer playing games on like PS2 or 3 or whatever.
It is crazy. I don't remember who said this. Maybe it was a tweet, actually. Or I feel like it was on a podcast I listened to. But someone was like, imagine, like, watch a movie and just realize that every scene in that movie, seconds before they started filming, every actor was just like laying in a trailer, just chilling out, because they just get there right when they're about to start filming. So just imagine, even if it's an emotional scene, like not more than 10 minutes ago, they were just like laying in a trailer somewhere, probably eating Fritos.
Yeah, every time you watch an action movie and you see like this really intense moment where somebody's like yelling or screaming or whatever, think about the second before they said action.
Yeah.
Because they had a normal face and then they had to immediately go into that. That's what I want you to think about.
Crank it up to 11.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I guess we should talk about the actual awards of the Game Awards.
Did you vote on these?
No, I am still subscribed to the Discord, and I just totally spaced on it because I think that's still how you do it, right? Is you vote through the Discord?
No, well, I mean, you can. You can go to their website, and it makes it really easy.
I did last year, but I didn't this year for whatever reason. It kind of snuck up on me.
Yeah, there's always like categories I don't really care about, or there's like categories where there's some games that I've played and there's some that I haven't, and I'm just a little bit like, is it wrong to vote on this? Because I don't really know what the other one is bringing to the table, but yeah, I guess you just vote with what you know. So, but do you want to run these down?
Yeah, so I guess, so let's start with the game of the year. Who did you think it was going to be?
I thought it might be Sekiro, to be honest.
Really?
I think I voted Death Stranding, but I was like, to me, it's either Death Stranding or Outer Worlds. But really? I know how much people love Sekiro, and it's been out for a lot longer, so people have been talking about it a lot longer. And like Death Stranding is like super hot and cold.
Niche.
Yeah. So I had a feeling that it would probably not be that one.
He got best like game director or whatever, right?
Yeah, which I think is fair because it's the most like a movie.
Yeah. See, I thought Control was a lock for this because
really?
I've never heard anyone say anything like negative about Control.
Yeah, but I think Control wasn't as big as Sekiro. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Definitely more people streamed Sekiro, and I watched a lot of it because, well, I didn't know if I was going to play it or not, and then eventually I was just like, no, I just need to watch this. And I know like there were some great moments in it that people have made like compilations of reactions to, which is always a good indication of what's going to be Game of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I still want to play Control at some point, but I knew it was going to be Sekiro. Like almost as soon as I saw the nominees, I was like, oh, this is going to Sekiro for sure.
Well, they did so best action game. And I'm super glad that Devil May Cry 5 won. That's another game it's on my list of things to play, and I just have not played it yet. But
honestly,
I'm not really...
this one kind of caught me by surprise.
What were you expecting?
I don't know what I expected, to be honest. Just not Devil May Cry 5 because I don't remember that many people talking about it. Maybe it's just not the circles I follow.
I love Devil May Cry game. Like, the problem is I like to play them all in one go, and I just haven't had time to sit down and spend like 6 hours playing a game. But just like that loop of like beat 'em up and like finding insane weapons and then upgrading them with orbs is just so enticing to me.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, looking at like the list of nominees here, it makes more sense to me. But for whatever reason, when I was like voting, it didn't occur to me that Devil May Cry 5 would be like the top dog.
Action adventure game?
Action adventure game. No surprise if Sekiro is the best game of the year. Why wouldn't it also be the best action adventure game?
Now, family game took me by surprise because Luigi's Mansion is something I'm interested in playing, but I have not gotten around to it. I thought for sure it was going to be Smash.
I had Smash for fighting game, so I was like, oh, for sure this is Luigi's Mansion 3. And I did play Luigi's Mansion 3, and I loved it. There are 2 videos I put up on the channel right now if you want to watch those.
I want to get it. I think I maybe will be getting it for Christmas, but like it looks amazing to me, and I can't wait.
Yeah, so I did a video giving impressions about the game as a whole, and then I did like a tips video for the cooperative online mode. And I like both. Like I liked the online mode. I liked how varied everything was, as far as like each floor you go to feels very different. So yeah, I voted for Luigi's Mansion 3, and it didn't surprise me that it won.
And then fighting game, we talked about it. It was Smash, which I think is well deserved. I know people loved Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah, but, I didn't think this one was necessarily a lock because of Mortal Kombat 11, but yeah. I thought for sure it was, in my opinion, Super Smash Brothers.
And then Disco Elysium for fresh indie game. Everybody's been talking about this, and I feel bad I haven't played it.
I know, same. Like I hear nothing but good things. Now, the one thing I'll say is it's only on PC right now, and they are planning a Switch release. So I may wait until next year when it comes out on Switch. Because
I'm waiting for that. What's that Steam game that they always talk about? Like a hike up the mountain or whatever.
Oh,
a short hike.
A lonely. I don't know.
That needs to be on Switch immediately because I would love to play that.
Yeah, I hear very good things about that as well.
But yeah, Disco Elysium. I would totally play that on Switch. That sounds great.
Yeah. So if you don't know what it is, it's like a story-driven game where it's like a noir story where you're like a detective, and instead of actual like turn-based combat, it's all dialogue-based. And so all your skills, as you're leveling up, just go into the different types of like dialogue you can have with people. So it sounds great. It's a little bit like sort of a, I want to not choose your own adventure, but like sort of like playing a novel, which is why I want it on Switch so I can like sit on my couch or in bed or something and just like play through it that way. But
and then we talked about game direction was Kojima, which is well deserved.
Yeah, I mean, I could see this going to Resident Evil 2 just because people love that game, but in my mind, Death Stranding should have won this. So.
And then independent game, I feel like, I mean, everyone loves Disco Elysium, so it won, but I feel like any of these could have won.
Yeah.
Like, especially Outer Wilds.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of really good things about Outer Wilds as well. It was like maybe the earliest game in the year that I was hearing like Game of the Year buzz for, so I think maybe it's a little surprising, but that just goes to tell you how much people love Disco Elysium.
And then best multiplayer game, Apex Legends, which we were both very hot on initially, but we've kind of fallen off of.
I think I still actually did vote for Apex Legends, though, just because like I don't care about Borderlands. Tetris 99 I thought was an interesting sort of novel approach to Battle Royale, but like it did not move Twitch the way Apex did.
No.
And neither did Modern Warfare, even though I think Modern Warfare, like, people like it. It's good. And then Division 2, like, people seem to have bounced off of that game pretty fast. So it seemed pretty clear to me that it was going to be Apex.
And then Best Narrative, again, Disco Elysium was mopping up at the Game Awards. It won 3, I think it won the most awards this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, just going by this list here, it does seem like it did, because it also run, not to spoil too much, a role-playing game. So it probably did take home the most, which is crazy because this game is only on PC.
Best ongoing game, Fortnite. I feel like that's deserved with all the crazy stuff they've been doing lately. It's crazy how much content they pump out. I feel like every 2 weeks I see a Kotaku article about, like, well, this is being added to Fortnite right now.
Yeah, and they do, like, interesting things. Like, there was that time where it just, like, went offline for a little while and then came back again, and like, they do really interesting things that keep their audience going, like, whoa, what's going to happen next? So it's pretty cool. And they have, like, a lot of ties to other pop culture properties. Like, they did that Avengers thing, and they did one for Star Wars. Yeah,
Thanos was in it.
So they definitely keep it fresh and interesting. I'll give them that.
Performance
is
something I don't really care about.
I don't care that much about it. I just thought it was surprising that it was Mads Mikkelsen. Even though I liked his performance in this, it just seemed like, I thought for sure it was going to be Parvati from Outer Worlds, just because I feel like people were talking about her, like, everybody loved that character. So I almost thought, like, people would just give it to that character. But
see, I thought it was going to be Norman Reedus, because he's just like, he's in every frame of that game, just like kind of emoting crazily.
Well, but the thing about Norman Reedus is he's kind of like trying to find the line between playing a character and being a blank slate for you. And so he doesn't really, even though he's in every single moment of that game, he doesn't have to do a lot.
That's true. And then role-playing game, we talked about Disco Elysium again. Score and music, I think, is well-deserved for Death Stranding.
Yeah, I was pretty happy about this, because like, ever since playing the game, I've been listening to the soundtrack. So I like that the score is kind of synthy, like kind of a Mass Effect style.
Perfect,
music.
I think so, yeah. Art direction, this is the only award that Control won, but I feel like it had to either be Death Stranding or Control, and Control was just like very artistic, and even the trailers were just like heavy colors and like sharp contrasted architecture.
It is a crazy game to look at, and like I haven't played it yet, but just every time you see it, it just is pretty eye-catching. So
I'm pretty sure I'm getting it for Christmas, so I'm excited to take a look at it.
Audio design, Call of Duty. I did play the beta, and I was really impressed with the way they sort of updated things there. Like, because I've played past Call of Duty games, and I felt like maybe the sound effects were not necessarily getting better there for a while, and suddenly they're right up there with the Battlefield games, which in my eyes have been blowing Call of Duty out of the water just in terms of like audio design for a long time. And I think Modern Warfare brings them right in line. So that's cool.
And then community support. I thought it was probably either going to be Fortnite or Destiny 2. And Destiny 2 won, which is, I guess, good. Like, they've been pretty in touch, like on the Reddit and whatnot, as far as like listening to their players.
Yeah, I mean, these about ongoing games, these categories kind of confuse me. I'm not sure what the distinction necessarily is, but I guess it's cool that Destiny won something, because that's the one I've played and I liked it. And I think they did a good job of, in those pre-Shadowkeep like release months, of just like talking to the community and letting them know what was coming and what to expect. So
yeah. And then esports game, something I don't think either of us care about, but League of Legends won.
Yeah, we don't really care, but I guess it's not surprising. League of Legends is huge, but maybe a little surprising not Fortnite, just because of how big, like, mainstream media was talking about that one Fortnite tournament where like the 16-year-old won like a whole bunch of money.
League is interesting because they came out and they're like, guess what? We're making like 5 different games, all different genres, set in the League of Legends universe. and one of them looks like a crazy Overwatch style shooter, which I might check out. But
really, that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about the lore of League of Legends, but
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, that was the Game Awards. I enjoyed watching it. There were not a ton of crazy, this was not a guess what, the DLC for Zelda is coming out right now and you can get a motorcycle type year. But it was good. They had the Xbox and they had Vin Diesel. So I was not disappointed I watched it.
Actually, now that you mention it, I'm a little surprised they didn't do a Nintendo thing. Because if we had done a predictions video, we probably both would have said a Nintendo reveal at the end of this.
Yeah, 100%. I would have thought the next Smash reveal, but nothing. They had Reggie there, but that doesn't really count. I guess Doug Bowser was there for a while, but no Nintendo reveal, which is surprising. I think this might be the first year in a while they haven't had a Nintendo reveal.
Yeah, because they did Smash and they did Zelda. And I think I expected one of those two to have some sort of trailer or something, but nope.
So let's talk about this. We've both been playing and watching probably a bunch of stuff. You've probably been doing more than me because I have been hammered with finals until last week and also working a full-time job. So I haven't been playing a ton, but I have been playing and watching some stuff.
Well, so The Expanse Season 4 came out last week, and I have marathoned it. And I won't say anything about it other than I loved it because I don't think you've seen it yet.
Zach, I have not seen one frame of season 4, and it's upsetting to me. But I think I'm going to start this weekend. Have been so busy, and my girlfriend has been here, and she has not seen the previous seasons, so I don't want to when I watched the first 3 seasons, I was texting you throughout, and I would almost stayed up for 24 hours straight just watching it. And I cannot do that this time, which is a real bummer. Yeah. But I wanted to vote. I want to watch at least 3 or 4 episodes in a row, and I just have not had 4 hours that I can spare. But
it definitely, if you watch one, you're going to want to watch another. And then if you watch that one, you're going to want to watch another. It's very good about making you hooked.
I'm very excited. Would you say that it is, you've read the 4th book, correct?
No, not yet. I think I'm in 3. I'm in book 3 somewhere. Not to the events that happen in this season, but almost.
I cannot wait. I am super excited to watch it.
I will say, I think the budget, you can tell the budget's a little higher. The effects maybe look a little bit better than they have in previous seasons. Although it could be that I'm watching it on a bigger, nicer TV than I have in the past, so maybe that's part of it.
Have they confirmed season 5 is happening yet?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question.
I hope so.
I hope so. I think I did see an article that this season was doing well as far as the watch numbers for people who were streaming it. I think it was a mistake to launch it all at once instead of go week to week. Because I know that's what Netflix does, but the thing is basically if you do what Netflix does and you dump the entire season at once, people will marathon it over the weekend and by Tuesday they're done talking about it. If you release it week to week, you get a Game of Thrones situation where people never stop talking about it for 2 months or however long.
It's true.
It's every time a new episode comes out, people are talking about it on Twitter. Fans start coming up with all these theories for what's going to happen next week. And it's just this persistent conversation, and that gets more people talking about it. So more people start wanting to watch it. And it just becomes this bigger cultural thing that's happening over the course of several weeks. So I think it is a mistake to release it all at once rather than to sort of build momentum over time. But I also, just as someone who was desperate to see what was going to happen next at the end of every episode, it was kind of nice to be able to marathon it. So,
well, soon enough. When I watch all of it, we should definitely do a rundown of the whole season because I am very excited for it. It'll probably be after Christmas, but I can't wait to watch it.
Okay. I would actually not mind rewatching it and then, doing that conversation.
You know what I've been watching is The Mandalorian.
I've actually seen all but the most recent episode.
I've also seen all but the most recent episode. What do you think? Do you like it?
I think stylistically, I like it, and I think part of that is because it feels so like, I was trying to explain this to somebody recently, where the Disney Star Wars movies feel like they're trying to do original Star Wars. Star Wars was originally trying to do Akira Kurosawa, and The Mandalorian feels like it's trying to do Akira Kurosawa. So it feels a little bit more in the vein, like by extension, it feels more in the vein of original Star Wars because it's inspired by the same things that inspired original Star Wars, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
However, I don't like that it's episodic.
Really?
Yeah.
I like that it's episodic.
So the reason why I don't like it is because, like we were just talking about with The Expanse, at the end of every episode, there's this hook that makes you want to tune in to the next episode. Whereas with this show, it ends and I just kind of don't feel anything.
That's like, but it's like Star Trek though, where like it's every episode is contained.
I know, but we're like so far beyond that. Like 2019, it's like the golden age of television. We have all these like great stories that are slowly unfolding over multiple seasons. And like, such is the expectation that I watched the first episode. And if you watch the third episode, it kind of picks up where that one left off. But like you watch episode 2, and by the end of it, it's like, if you didn't see that episode, it changes nothing about like the characters or the like main thrust of like what they're doing, to the point where I was like, it's episode 2 and it's already like filler territory. Also, like it's still like 5 episodes in, and we don't really know that much about the character. Like, we don't know his name. We haven't seen his face.
I'm into that.
Like, it could be Pedro Pascal, or it could just be his voice. I don't know.
I like that they're not like holding your hand and like, let's describe why everything is happening and who everyone is. I feel like this is exactly the opposite of Solo, where like they're describing everything and like, oh, this is the Kessel Run and things like that. This is just some dude doing stuff, you know?
I mean, I agree with you there.
It's completely removed from any sort of like canon nonsense.
I agree with you there. I did not like the Solo movie, and I do like that they're doing their own thing, but I still wanted like them to come up with a story, like a long form story that unfolded over the course of a season. I mean, and it kind of felt like they were doing that, but
he's always hanging out with Baby Yoda, and that's eventually probably going to come to a head, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, but then there's like episode 2 and like 4 and 5 that just like lift out, and you could just watch 1, 3, and whatever the episode where that comes to a head.
I don't know. I enjoy it. I also love the music of it. Like, that main Mandalorian theme, I feel like is so good. And I love that every episode ends with just like beautiful concept art with that theme playing.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like the style of it. I like the music. I like the look of it. I think the action was probably at its best in the first episode so far. I haven't seen the latest episode, so I don't know, but
nor have I, yeah. Great cameos?
Yeah, so far. I know there are more to come. There was Taika Waititi was a robot in like the first episode. I hear
Richard Ayoade was a
robot.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that episode, but I heard that he was a robot, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, you haven't seen 2 episodes?
Yeah, I'm actually 2 episodes behind. But I mean, I don't know. It's like, I could kind of take it or leave it, but I get why people are into it. Speaking of Star Wars, though, The Rise of Skywalker will be out by the time this podcast goes up, and it is not reviewing well.
It's definitely mixed. I don't think I've seen a positive review of it, actually. So maybe it's not mixed?
I think it's mostly negative, which I expected, to be honest.
It's a bummer. Like, I was hoping, I don't know. I don't really care anymore, I guess.
I was going to say, I'm kind of not really that into Star Wars anymore, which has hurt my appreciation for The Mandalorian a little bit. and has also hurt my appreciation of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, to segue into that, because I've played a little bit of it. I don't love the Soulsborne style of combat.
Yeah. That's what Drew kind of pushed me away. Like, the story looks cool. I've been watching a Let's Play of it just to get the story, but it just looks too punishing to me.
There is a story mode, and maybe I should just like turn it down to that, and maybe I would be fine. But like, I'm still fairly early on, and maybe that's also part of it, because I hear that the combat starts to kind of come into its own once you unlock more powers. But it's kind of like, I shouldn't have to play like 20 hours before this starts feeling fun. And like, I got ran over. There were these like two things that look like a cross between a ram and a unicorn, and like one would try to run at me and I would dodge it, and like before I could really do enough damage to kill it, the other one would just like charge and run me over, and I would just die. And I was like, this does not feel like, a cool Jedi game where you have all these crazy force powers and a lightsaber that would likely kill something in one hit, because I'm getting destroyed by wildlife. And so at that point, I turned it off for a while, and I haven't really been back to it. So I don't know if it's really for me, but also like the story, maybe it gets better. You can maybe speak more to it than me, but I was not.
I mean, I'm still enthralled by the story.
Yeah, I wasn't so into it that I needed to see what was going to happen next yet. Maybe I would get to that point if I kept playing, but I don't know.
How about that Pokemon?
Well, so I did put a note in our show notes that say, like, there's an article that says that it is a launch weekend sales record. So it's doing well. There is some controversy. I don't really care that much about that, though. It's fine. It's Pokemon. I kind of like ran out of interest, I think, partway through, though, so I haven't been back to it. Part of it is I'm like trying to adjust to a different sleep schedule than I'm used to, and so like I get home and I'm like, I should play something, but I'm just so tired and I just kind of don't feel like it. So maybe that's part of it. But I like the setting. I like the Galar region. I think it looks cool. But I'm disappointed by kind of how lackluster the visuals are, considering it looks like a 3DS game ported or up-resed to the Switch. It doesn't look like an actual upgrade. It's kind of like how we wish Bethesda would upgrade their engine, or just like build a new one entirely. I feel like Game Freak needs to do that, maybe, but
I will say, I mean, so my girlfriend has been playing it because I'm not super into Pokemon games, but I've been like doing other things while she's been playing it, and she just got to the town with the plant gym, and man, the music for that town is so good, and I've had it stuck in my head, and I've just like found it on YouTube and have been playing it because it's just like, it's so catchy and so good. So the music, I think, in this game, at least based on the couple tracks that I've heard, I think is pretty solid.
Yeah, there are some solid tracks. There are some that I didn't love as much. There's some that I'm like, I think Sun and Moon was better as far as music goes, but I feel like there's always at least a handful of tracks from locations in Pokemon games that are like, yeah, this is just like, it's impossible to be angry while you're listening to this music, and it should probably just be on in the background at all times. But so there's that. Which starter did your girlfriend choose?
Grookey.
Okay, well, I chose Sobble. And as soon as he evolved, I kind of regretted it a little bit because he looks very emo. And I was like, is this the direction all of them went? Or I don't know.
Grookey has just gotten more bulky. Like, the reason I think she picked him was because every time he pops out, he makes just like this insane little like squeaky monkey noise, which is very adorable. But I mean,
so let me
none of the
ask
starters
you,
I feel like are super solid.
Yeah, let me ask you, based on our previous conversation about Sword and Shield and the leaked characters, did it become thwacky?
I think it did.
Was that real? That was real?
It was real. Insanely enough, I was so sure that those were just like terrible like Blender renderings of what people thought. but because this color scheme and everything just looked really wrong to me. But I mean, sure enough, they were real, and I mean, whatever, it's fine. But definitely, they looked the best when they were at their first evolution.
I'm curious what Score Bunny looks like in his later evolutions, because I feel like
he just looks like a dude.
Does he?
Yeah, he just looks like a chill guy with his arms crossed.
Because I feel like they tried to do something similar with Sobble's third evolution, because he just becomes this, like, he goes from, like, an emo teen in his, like, middle evolution to, like, this really skinny, like, sort of pompous-looking guy that, like, all of his attacks he fires out of one finger. It's a little bit weird, but...
One of Grookey's attacks is just, like, a stick materializes out of thin air, and he just like jabs it at his opponent. It's called branch poke.
Does it at least hit hard?
Oh yeah, it's hard.
Okay. I think one of Sobble's, I forget the evolution's names, but in his third evolution, he has one called Snipe Shot, and it like destroys everything in one hit. So
I have been playing Minecraft Earth.
I was going to ask you about that. I put it in the notes because I figured you had been playing it at the very least.
It's not great. I haven't been playing as much Minecraft. Over the summer, I was very into Minecraft, and I started 2 new worlds, and I was building stuff, and it was fun. Super jazzed about Minecraft Earth. And then I kind of like, I got this job, and I stopped playing Minecraft as much. But I did get Minecraft Earth, and it's just like, it's very beta. There's not a ton to do. The things that you should... Another terrible thing about it is it's winter now, and they should have released this in the summer because you so need to go to these places to experience what the game really is. These, like, dungeons, basically. But it's freezing outside.
That's
so
what worked for
around.
Pokemon Go, yeah.
Exactly. And, like, I've done one where I was like, oh, it's right here. I'll get out of the car and do it. But it was too cold, and it looked cool, and I wanted to do more of it, but I just, like... I don't know. I was like alone. But I am interested to see. I feel like maybe they're having this beta period, and in the summer, they're really going to launch some new features, and then I'll be a little bit more interested in it. The other bummer thing is I think it's tied to the Bedrock edition of Minecraft, which is like not my preferred version of Minecraft because it's all Microsofty and you have to pay for stuff, and like mods are weird.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm going to keep opening it up every once in a while and like tapping on sheep and stuff, and hopefully it'll get better.
Now, I don't want to get you excited, but I did download it, and I opened it a few times and collected some resources around me. But,
that's pretty much all you can do.
But I almost immediately got confused because it was like, when you go to build something, you can build these like pre-made templates for things. And so I did that. And then I was like, well, now what do I do with it? And it did.
Yeah, they haven't incorporated like being able to leave your creations places for other people to see.
Yeah, that was my thing. I didn't know what to do with it. So I hit like exit whatever that screen I was in, and then it was just gone. And I was like, can I see it again? Why is it not in the overworld?
I did do a thing where I made like a little house with a tree and I put a sheep. And then I blew it up to big size, and I was able to walk around inside it, which was cool, but also like very limited in scope.
Seems like maybe they have some interesting ideas, but they're not fully fleshed out yet.
It's not going to go hardcore insano until people have AR glasses, but I mean, it's like a good foundation.
So we can talk a little bit about Death Stranding. You've played a little bit of it, right?
Very little. I'm on I think I just got to chapter 3, I want to say. But I'm still very early in the game, and I've only been playing for short amounts of time. But I intend to invest a bunch of time in it this weekend since I'll be alone.
Chapter 3 is when it kind of really opens up as well. And a tip for anyone. I spent like one of the nights when I was playing this game, I just spent like the entire time driving around because you can get vehicles, and like I got this truck and I was driving it around and I was just loading it up with as many like materials as I could find, because you get like metals and ceramic and stuff like that. And they have these auto pavers, And I would just drop off as many materials at each of the auto pavers as possible. And in doing that, I was able to construct a bunch of like sections of road that like stretched out like into the map a good ways. And that made things so much easier, because instead of like having to deal with, what are they called? Those
BTs?
No, not the BTs. Well, I mean, I guess those as well, but there were like the mules is what they're called. The guys that like come try to steal your stuff. You can just like drive through their camp and not deal with him. So that made doing all of that a lot easier. But also it's cool because if you build them, then you get these little notes that say, oh, somebody used your road and they liked it. So I like kind of the social aspect of it as well. But the story was the thing that really kept me going. I wrote like a thing about Death Stranding, about why it was one of my top 5 games of the year. That's on StarsideCafe.com right now. You can go read that if you want more in-depth thoughts on the game. I don't know if I want to share too much about the story since you haven't finished it.
No,
but
I still am very interested to see where it goes.
I really enjoyed it, so I hope you do too, and maybe we can talk about it more once you've played more of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, as we're wrapping up, why don't you give us some parting wisdom?
Zach, I'm seeding this time. We already did this a little bit pre-podcast, but I want to talk about Tenet, which I keep saying tenant in my brain, but it's Tenet because it's a palindrome. Trailer launched today, and you've seen it once, and I've seen it like 4 times, and it looks super cool to me.
It looks very, very cool to me as well. Now, Christopher Nolan, I pretty much always trust that he's going to give me a very like mind-bendy, cool, like well put together movie.
Very exciting. It seems like the general conceit of this one is some sort of localized time travel element that maybe you need to breathe something or see something to initiate. But we were speculating pre-podcast that it's going to be, he's like come out and said like, oh yeah, this is my most ambitious film ever. I think the reason for that is because it is maybe going to incorporate insane stunts that everyone has to do in reverse so that we can see them forward, because it's going to be some kind of insane filming technique where, because there's a shot in the trailer where they're driving backwards, maybe in preparation for going actually backward. I don't know. It's hard to talk about without seeing it, but man, I am jacked for this movie, hardcore.
Yeah, I'm super excited. The not official release date, but the expected release date is July 17th, 2020, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so the IMDb describes it as an epic revolving around an international espionage, time travel, and evolution, whatever that means.
Evolution?
Yeah, I didn't see how that last part came into play, but yeah, it seemed definitely more in the vein of like Inception than Interstellar or obviously the war movie Dunkirk. So, which is good because I think as much as I liked Dunkirk and I thought Interstellar was fine, Inception is one of my favorite Nolan movies ever. Yeah. So if he makes something that tops that, I'm on board.
It just, his aesthetic is so like crisp and clean, like Inception just, and like even in Interstellar just had such clean lines and everyone is in a nice suit and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just, I'm so excited to see the stunts that happen because I'm sure, I mean, you brought up before the podcast about how they built that hallway that just spun around for that one. I worked at a movie theater when that movie came out and I timed it because I was not doing anything ever because I was a bad employee. But I would always time it so that I would walk into Inception and just watch that scene with Joseph Gordon-Levitt fighting in that hallway.
Yeah.
I've seen it like 30 or 40 times on the big screen and it never gets old. It's so good.
It's so cool. Yeah. And that's one of the things about Nolan is he gives you something interesting where I feel like big Hollywood blockbusters are sort of stuck in this like prequel sequel franchise thing. Like Christopher Nolan comes out of nowhere and gives you something that is pretty original and also like every bit as big and if not better than the like franchise stuff. And I saw some YouTuber that like does film essays. He was talking about Christopher Nolan, and he pointed out, I forget who it was, so I'm not like crediting him when I should, but he said something about how usually you have either like a big movie that is like wildly entertaining, but it's not necessarily something that people think of as like really artful. And other times you have like really artful movies that are not necessarily big and like wildly entertaining, but they're like artful, you know. Christopher Nolan kind of brings both together in a way that most filmmakers don't.
That's a good way to say that.
Because they're still like big, wildly entertaining movies, but they're also still very, very artful as well.
My favorite thing in a movie is some sort of time travel element. So this is right up my alley. Like obviously I enjoy it more in the context of a romantic comedy, but this looks, I mean...
Are there time travel romantic comedies?
Zach, there's so many. Have you ever heard of The Lake House?
Oh, that's right. You keep telling me about this movie and I have not seen it yet.
Oh, it's so good. There's also a weird one with Darren Aronofsky and Marissa Tomei where he's possibly from the future, but it's like not, it's unclear throughout the movie.
The only one I can think of is Kate and Leopold.
What about that's also a great one. About Time.
I don't think I saw that.
Ooh, you would love that movie.
I should add it to my watch list.
You should watch that. It's super good. Anyway, that's Aaron's parting wisdom. We just needed to talk about that. I am excited for it. I can't wait to see more.
I've got some parting wisdom for you.
Oh, lay it on me.
Next time you're at Walgreens, pick up some sesame cashews.
What?
Because they are amazing.
Wait, do they have little sesame seeds on them? Are they like bespeckled cashews?
Yes. And even if you don't initially think that would sound good,
it does sound good.
You have to try it because it's pretty amazing.
I will definitely try it.
I got some earlier this week because I randomly stopped and I was like, you know what, I should get some like cashews or almonds or something. And I saw those and I was like, ooh, this is interesting. And I almost ate the entire bag in one sitting because they were so good.
Well, I think that just about does it for this week.
Yeah, so I don't know that we'll get another one out before Christmas or even the end of the new year or the end of the year. So
I predict we'll probably get one out. I mean, I'm not doing a ton next week. I don't know about you.
That's true. I might be able to get in like a top 5 episode to round out the year, which would be great. Either way, if we see you or we don't see you, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll catch you on the next one and in 2020.
2020. Goodbye.
Goodbye.